Start right away. Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining for the UB's Blackstone LaunchPad Masterclass, episode 7 of a 10-episode series. My name is Prajwal, and I'm a venture coach for Blackstone LaunchPad, and I'll be your host tonight. LaunchPad is a campus-based office designed to make entrepreneurship accessible and relevant for all students to help you build thriving companies and careers located at Student Union 220. Today's masterclass covers the value proposition on how to find the highest benefits that most important to you and your audience. In just a moment, we'll begin our presentation. Our presenter, Mr. Mark Stramaglia, will share his presentation and then we'll open up to the audience. You're welcome to use the chat box to post your queries. Mark has had a prolific career in life sciences, and he worked previously with the Thermo Fisher, and now he has his own consulting practice. He sits on the board of UB's Alumni Association as well. We are so thrilled to have you here today. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Mark with a virtual round of applause.
Thank you very much. That's a very gracious introduction. And what I'm going to do is if I can take over the sharing, I'm going to take that over at this point in time. And let's do this. Okay. It says the host has disabled my participant screen sharing. Can somebody allow me to share?
You'll be able to. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and I'm going to try to get this into slideshow, and hopefully I'll still be able to see everyone's comments in chat. But as was indicated, we're going to talk about finding your value proposition tonight. And what I hope this will be is more of an interactive discussion with those of you that are on, and that we'll have the opportunity to use some of the chat function in Zoom to allow us to do some interaction in addition to at any time take yourself off mute and ask a question or make a comment, because there will be plenty of opportunity to do that. As was indicated, I have a lot of years of experience in a number of areas of the pharmaceutical world and life sciences world, but what I would consider myself in many ways is an intrapreneur. Okay, I worked in large companies for the most part, and as a result of those experiences, I discovered my basic instinct was always to try to help those companies figure out better products to launch and to have a better match with their customer base. And as we did that through the course of my career, that allowed me to help introduce more than 20 new products successfully into those markets. So I can give more on some of those experiences as you guys ask me questions, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself to let you know that I have both a technical and a business background from the University of Buffalo, and have had many years of experience to allow me to be able to talk reasonably about the value proposition concept. So with that, I just want to build a little bit here on some of what was said in the introduction. What is a value proposition? Okay, and especially a unique value proposition, because something that makes your particular product unique or service unique is what will cause people to come to you as opposed to someone else, or to use that item that you came up with, or that service that you came up with, or that app, or whatever it turns out to be. That's what will be the reason why they want to come to you. So that starts with what your customers need and want. What is it that that's driving them? And that might cause you to have to say, hey, you know what? 80% of the population out there isn't even interested in what I'm looking to get them to be interested in. But The 20% that is my customer segment. And those folks want very specific things. Well, then you got to think about, are those specific things that you can provide? And as you think about what you're offering, then you can put that into the context. What is your advantage? Why should they look at you as opposed to any other option they have? Now, in some cases, it's an option of no other product or service that's exactly what you're offering, but it's what they do today to try to address whatever the concern is that you're hoping to be able to address with your product or company or service. So what the unique value proposition really points to then is that intersection. It's the right set of customers with those needs that match up with your advantage, and that may be somewhat unique or may overlap slightly with some of the competitive options today, but have some advantage that you can provide. And that's what you're really trying to seek here. So for you to be able to develop that advantage, you need to understand, you need to really discover what your customer cares about. What is it that they really care about? Now, in some cases, in my background, it was patients. In other cases, it was physicians. In other cases, it was pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so, or insurers. So it could be a whole variety of different people that may be who the customer is. And you need to understand what they care about. The other thing that you need to understand is your proposed advantage. What is it that you do well? And really understanding what your strengths are. Not everyone is able to really say that they have all the advantages. And in some cases, it may not seem like a real advantage, but it's how you deliver it. So maybe it doesn't sound like a unique advantage until you position it. So you've got to think that through. And then you have to think about, what are the alternatives? What do people do today? Okay. Before somebody had a mobile phone, people had to pick up a phone off the wall or off a desk in order to be able to answer the phone. Now that's done less and less than it ever was before. People who were traveling had to use something called a payphone that some of you may never have seen in your lifetime. Okay. And those were plastered all over the landscape. There were banks of them in hotels and other places where you just don't see them anymore. But that was the alternative to using a mobile phone or a cellular phone. So you've got to think about, what was it that made people decide, hey, I like having the portability and the lack of needing to go locate a phone, that caused them to say, yeah, that's a unique advantage that gives me a reason to want to like that technology and to use that technology. So it can be something that exists. It can be something that doesn't even sound like what your product or service is, but it is the alternative that those customers are interested in at this time. So that's what I'm going to try to get you guys to think about tonight. And I'm going to use an example so that, first I'm going to give you an example of a completed value proposition statement for my consultancy. But then I'm going to take you through trying to do this for something that I hope you've all had some exposure to, a product called a milkshake. Okay. And it's a beverage that people would have made with milk and ice cream and flavors, and have that as sort of a treat in many cases for people. But for some people, it's something that they would like or care about. But to have you start to think through what could be a value proposition if you were running a company that made milkshakes. Okay. So to start out, the elements of the value proposition statement is first identifying the customer segment you're targeting. So who is it that should care about what you're trying to offer? Then describing the benefits you're going to deliver to those customers. So what are the key things if you only had a few sentences or a few words to be able to tell someone why they should be interested in your offering? What are those key benefits that you would bring to them? And then explaining why this will be of more value to them than what you perceive or you hope they perceive as the most competitive alternative. So this is an example statement, okay, using those elements. Okay. When I think about the value proposition for my LGS, which stands for Let's Get Started Consultancy, I think of it as being something that targets entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs seeking new product or offering success. I believe that the consultancy provides experienced support for value proposition, strategy, and business model development using customer discovery to drive their decisions based on the successes I've had in introducing new products in the life sciences and pharmaceutical industries, and offered with more personalized attention and in a more economical way than I perceive alternative consultants might provide. Now, that's what I believe my value proposition is. Quite honestly, you guys could probably give me feedback on whether or not that's anything that would convince you as entrepreneurs to be interested in talking more with me. And maybe I'll find that out after this session. Okay. But it's where we start. So, as I mentioned, what I'd like to give you guys this evening is an opportunity and some time to be able to develop a value proposition statement. Okay. And as I also mentioned, the topic would be a milkshake. So what do you think are the things that customers most care about regarding selection of a milkshake? What would you propose as a potential advantage versus other options? And what do you believe are the advantages for a milkshake today? So I'm sorry, so let's start out with what you guys think customers care about most regarding selection of a milkshake. Or maybe you want to broaden it, but let me ask you to start putting some things in chat so that we can kind of together take a look at what you guys think might be important regarding milkshakes. And if a few of you are in a room together, I encourage you also to elect someone to start putting things in. Okay, so someone said calories. Ingredients. Okay. Well, when someone says ingredients, what do they mean by ingredients? Something about the ingredients, or some, what could they qualify that just a little bit more? Okay. I'm not getting a lot of other folks here. Healthy fruit-based ingredients. Okay. So somebody thinking about the nutritional, but also flavor-based elements of the ingredients. Okay. Don't be shy, folks. If you have any other thoughts, taste. Okay. I mean, clearly, if it tastes bad, somebody's not going to be that interested in it. Okay. So let me take you guys through a few different thoughts that I had just brainstorming this concept. And I've probably been drinking milkshakes for many, many years. So there are a few things that sort of came to mind for me. So folks brought this up, flavor. Somebody said fruity flavors. Okay, maybe that's so the flavor, but there could be standard flavors. Okay, I know that many places that offer milkshakes have standard flavors like vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry as their standard flavors, but sometimes they have seasonal ones. If you've listened to commercials, even I don't know, in today's media, it might be harder to hear some of these commercials, but certainly McDonald's usually has a seasonal um, Shamrock Shake for around St. Patrick's Day in the spring. There's usually this time of year pumpkin flavored milkshakes that are available. So there's lots of different things that are available relative to that, and there could be a wide variety. Okay, there are some ice cream places that you could go to that have 50 flavors, and you can have a milkshake made out of any of their flavors. So there could be those types of things. Somebody did bring up calories. Okay, so for some people, they might love the indulgence of a milkshake, but they wish they could have it with less calories. Okay, there might be the nutritional value that was also brought up, healthy. Okay, maybe somebody wants it to be a more protein based. I know there are lots of diet shakes that are out there that may not be your traditional milkshake, but they call themselves protein shakes. So they've kind of positioned themselves as that niche of health. Quantities. Okay, maybe people want it to have the ability to have a very small one as opposed to a 20 some ounce or 30 some ounce milkshake. Okay, because that could take you all day maybe to drink. Support of a cause. Sometimes people do things just as a fundraiser. Okay, so maybe the group of people you're interested in want to fight cancer. Okay, and they're going to use strawberry milkshakes because they're pink. Okay, for breast cancer or something like that. There's options to do things like that. Sustainability. Okay, that comes up a lot more these days than it had in the past. But somebody might even think of, hey, is the way you're offering the milkshake something more sustainable? Are all the container and all the elements all recyclable after you've consumed the milkshake? Are they using ingredients that don't cause a strain on the environment when they're being made? Okay, so there's a number of different things that way. Is it homemade? Okay, are they making it right in front of you as opposed to, hey, I've got this and I just, I pour some out whenever anybody asks me. Speed of delivery. Okay, is it something that you just order at the window and you get handed to you at that point in time? Or is it something that you've got to order ahead and maybe have brought to you, or maybe you have to go pick up? So that convenience aspect may be there. Availability with other food. Okay, I mentioned McDonald's or other places like that offer it with other food. Okay, maybe that's important to you, that it's part of a meal. And what's the value? What's the cost? Okay, maybe you want it to be something that's not too expensive for you to be able to indulge in once in a while. Any special needs? There might be special needs of your audience. You might be trying to pitch to be gluten-free or lactose-free. Okay, I mean, it's milk. So standardly, it would have lactose in it. but maybe you can make it lactose free and still be just as tasty as other options. And then you're catering to the part of the public that has issues with lactose intolerance. So there's all these different things that factor into what's the makeup of the customers you're looking for. So the best way to find out what's important to the customers you want to serve is talk to them. Okay. This is not rocket science. And I'm sure that many of you have talked about this in other aspects of developing your business. But when you're developing a business, the first thing you want to do is become very knowledgeable about what your customers' needs and wants are, hearing from them directly, because that's the only way you're going to know what it is they really want. You may believe you know what they want, but until you've heard them talk about it in an unprompted way, you're not going to understand that. And I know you guys have talked about customer discovery in one of your other sessions, but that's still a very key part of your development of a value proposition. So what kind of advantage, if you had your own milkshake company, what kind of advantages would you guys want to have? And let's go back to the chat. And I'll just say, while everybody's thinking about what they might want to put in, okay, that it's the kind of questions that I'm asking tonight about milkshakes are the types of questions you should ask about your offering, okay? And what advantages would you have? So in this case, I'm asking you to think a little bit about something that's more everyday, more common, and just asking you to think for a couple of minutes and type a couple of words in. Let me know what kind of advantages you think you can have. Okay. Affordability, very accessible. Absolutely. Those are the types of things that people may want. Okay. So, and when you think about accessibility, then yeah, where is it going to be? Okay. If you're putting it into a chain of stores, like a McDonald's chain that has hundreds or thousands of outlets all over, that gives you great accessibility to a large group of customers. The question is that where you want to have the accessibility? Might be just the UB campuses. So if it's just the UB campuses you want to have access to, then you want to get into the food service. Okay, so it's thinking about what does that mean for your business. So I'm just sort of connecting for you how the value proposition and development of the value proposition works with what it is that you will ultimately make decisions about strategically for how to develop your business. Okay, so I'm not getting other comments in here right now, but okay, milkshakes made from new flavors. Okay, so maybe somebody has a brand new flavor that they think is going to really take off. Okay, somewhere along the way, back in the 1950s, somebody came up with Tutti Frutti as a flavor. Okay, now you don't see it much today, but somebody might come up with a brand new flavor. Okay, so there's a brand new flavor they think is going to take over the world. Okay, maybe it's something with pop rocks in it or something, and so it effervesces in your mouth or whatever. Whatever that experience is that you expect that to be, then you just simply have to verify that somebody is interested in doing that. Do it yourself milkshakes. Okay, so do you have everything set up so that somebody can go ahead and go through the process of making a milkshake and do it faster and easier for themselves and maybe save some money by doing it? Okay, maybe that's part of what you're trying to offer for folks. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways in which we can look at this. All right, so It could be a combination of features like we just talked about. Okay, maybe it's do it yourself and maybe it's a new flavor. Okay, and maybe there's a couple of these things. You know, the thing that you're going to be wanting to think about next is how is that going to be different than a restaurant or a McDonald's or something else, a fast food place or maybe even a restaurant. Because I mean, you know, there's a place in Cheektowaga that has a website that I just saw that they had this picture of their the White Rabbit dessert experience, one of their milkshake offerings. Okay, a little bit different, garnished a little bit differently, but you know, that's something that they're using as a high-end experience for a milkshake. So the other thing to think about is what causes people to be interested in milkshakes today. Okay, when you go back, and part of what you might want to do in your customer discovery is ask the question of your customers, why do you like milkshakes? Okay, I mean, and maybe you guys want to put in the chat a few ideas about why does anybody like a milkshake or want a milkshake as opposed to something else? I'm not seeing anything in the chat right at the moment, but what I'm simply going to say is, you know, there are some common reasons that might go back to some of the things people said they think about milkshakes is that people might, because of a flavor, okay, the mint flavored ones around holidays might be something that folks are interested in. Some people might do it because they want to indulge themselves. As someone just wrote in the chat, since they're easy to carry, filling, and can be consumed while you're in classes. Okay, so look at that, the convenience of it as something that could be filling for you while you're in your busy schedule. Okay, so okay, great. So those are terrific ideas, and part of how you can be thinking about what to do when you're developing a value proposition. So I'm going to ask each of you that's participating here, and I think there's at least one room where there's a group of people together. I'm going to ask you guys to put into the chat something that resembles a value proposition, and I just kind of put sort of with blanks a representative value proposition for you guys to start working with, and you can modify that or work with it any way you want. But it's, you know, who are you targeting? And we'll call your company My Milkshake Company. Will provide what, which is much better than what else, by giving them something that the others can't provide. Okay, so I want to give you guys a few minutes to be able to do this. I'm just looking at my clock, and then after that, I'd like for us to be able to actually look at a couple of the ones that come up in the chat together so that we can develop that. Are there any questions about that before you go ahead and start trying to develop a value proposition statement for My Milkshake Company? Okay, I'm not getting any questions at this point, so I'll consider your 5 minutes starting now. And if any questions come up, I'll try to answer them during that interim, but I'm going to give you guys that time to think about this and try to develop something based on what we've discussed so far. And I see some comments coming up in the chat, but please think about how you would construct that into a value proposition statement like the one that I put up on the screen. And maybe you're thinking of that as what you're putting in the blanks. You can always come off mute and just let me know what you were thinking. Oh. Somebody needs to let me know if you're still there, because I was about to start to go into some of this and my screen seems to have frozen. So let me just.
I can read them out if you need.
Okay, now that would be great if you could.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll go with the first one. So what they have put up is, for people who are lactose intolerant, my milkshake company will provide lactose-free options, which will be much better than regular milkshakes by giving them a drinkable alternative that regular milkshakes cannot provide.
Okay, great, great. Okay. And that I think is is fills the blanks correctly. Okay. And is focusing on people who are lactose intolerant. So then what that tells you is in developing your product and you're comparing it to regular milkshakes, that you're going to want to be sure that the customers you're looking for, you know how to access them. So you're going to want to think about how to do that. You're also going to want to then, and this is thinking what your value proposition statement says, okay, then says that you'll also have perhaps some of those customers taste testing your milkshakes versus regular ones to show that they taste just as good as a regular milkshake, but provides them that benefit that the regular milkshake can't provide. Okay, and so I think that's a very good value proposition for a working value proposition to get started, and that's where you can go ahead and go with that type of statement. So I think it's following the formula, but it's also letting you know that there are some specific things you need to do in order to make sure that your business is going to be successful.
Awesome. So I'll go with the next one as well. For people who cannot use a straw, my company will provide a milkshake straw, which with an electric pump that will be much better than normal straws by giving back the sensation of drinking a milkshake that no competitor has provided.
Okay, and this is interesting because somebody took it beyond the milkshake itself to the entire experience, and I like that concept. Okay, I like the concept that you're going to somehow try to make this experience a better experience. Now, the question is what that means. Okay, so for that electric pump straw, okay, is that something that people will find the volume that it pushes through what is comfortable for them, or will you need to design it so that they can actually make that the speed of pumping that they want? So there's going to be those types of things. And then is your customer base that is looking for this type of alternative to a regular straw, are they going to be able to pay for that electric pump? Okay, so these are some of the questions that come up out of your value proposition statement. But that goes back to finding out what those customers are most concerned about, most interested in. If they really do need that type of assistance from their straw, then they may very well be interested in doing that, or they may have conditions that allow them to qualify for payment through a third-party payer that could help them assist them with that. So I think that's another great option there. Okay, so
I'll read the last one as well. There's one more.
Go ahead.
For people who are always on the go, my milkshake company provides healthy, accessible, and convenient milkshake, which can be much better than the high fructose content and artificially flavored, by giving them a very standardized and natural flavor options that traditional outlets cannot provide.
Okay, so let me just, I want to take a closer look at that one here. So, all right. Okay, so healthy, accessible, and convenient milkshakes. Okay, so some of those terms may need further definition for people. So this is fine for a value proposition, just the way it's been stated. But you've defined part of it by saying they're not having high fructose content. So you may have to identify who is giving that high fructose content today, because maybe you're targeting soft drink alternatives that have high fructose content or and are artificially flavored. So you want to be sure that it's focused on who you're trying to capture the customer from, okay, and what that customer is most interested in. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the way it's been stated here, just saying that it raises those additional questions so that you would need to address those things as you build your ability to bring your entire message to the marketplace and to customers. And it says by giving them a very standardized and natural flavor options that traditional outlets cannot provide. So then that would suggest that you're thinking about flavors that are different than chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, which may be some of the most popular flavors out there. So you, again, need to go back to who these, who these people are always on the go are. And can you define who those people who are always on the go in a way to be able to do that? And how would you find them? How would you get to them? So these are some of the questions that the value proposition raises. And it's the reason why you develop it in the first place. Now, you can always go back and further modify the value proposition as you learn more, but this gives you a starting point for being able to decide how would you do this? How would you want to go about making a value proposition statement for your business that you're developing? And then how can you test that value proposition to be sure that it's really the one succinct statement that you want to have about your business, or if you discover that you need to further modify it after talking to some customers. Does that make sense to everybody? I know you guys are all on mute, but I'm hoping that this is making some sense to you. Okay, so at this point, I know we've got some time left, and I'm seeing a couple of things coming up in chat. Okay, it does make sense to folks. All right, great. What I'd like to do is offer you guys the opportunity to ask me some questions, and then I have just one wrap-up slide after we answer any questions people have. And you can continue to use the chat, or if you'd like to actually speak directly to me, go ahead and come off mute.
Okay, Mark. I myself have a question that I would like to ask you. Uh, so specifically talking about value addition that we are providing to people, what happens when there are people who are providing similar value? If I'm in the same domain, if I'm providing some sort of value, there are other competitors who are providing value in the similar domain, but then the market itself is humongous, that is very large. Can I have a share of the market, or still would I need an innovative touch or some competitive advantage to go ahead and present my services or product?
It's a great question. Okay, the thing that you want to think about when you're going after a very large market is subsegments of that market. And so if there's someone else that has a very similar offering to what you want to offer, the question is, what do you see as the thing that's a little bit different from them? And who cares about that thing that's a little bit different than what everybody else is offering? When you can answer that question, what is different than what everyone else is offering for even one small group out of that large population, now you've defined who that audience is that you want to go after, because they're going to care about your value proposition maybe more than the rest of the people in that audience. And it doesn't matter whether or not the rest of the people care if you find out that 5% of that billion people is interested, or 10%, whatever. If that's 100 million people, or even if it turns out to be 500,000 people in a market, it may turn out to be all you need to make your business model work. And that's what you have to determine is that little slice that's a little different than everybody else enough to make your value proposition work. But until you've defined who those people are and how many of them there are that are out there out of that humongous population, you won't really know how successful you can be. For those larger companies that may be, they've got 50% share of that large market, they're not going to mess with you if you're going after 2-3% of their market, because they don't care. They don't care about what you're doing. Okay. That may allow you in to their market. And that's really what you're looking to do, is find that subpopulation that's going to care deeply about the difference that you can offer.
Thank you so much for the answer.
I don't know if anyone else has something else that they'd like to ask, but certainly, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dominic.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if you could talk about presenting value of a new type of product, maybe something that doesn't currently have any competition, and how to present your value proposition without comparing to already existing markets.
Yeah, so a very tough thing to do is you've got something that never existed before. Okay, and you want to make it clear what that new thing is, that and what it can do for you. And it's very difficult today to define that because of the fact that there are so many markets that have been started in some specific way. But think of it in terms of, okay, SpaceX is out there. They're offering flights into space, okay, which, yes, NASA did it first, and so did the Russians, so did, others. Others have done it, but nobody really offered it to the public before, okay? Right now, you've got to be a pretty rich person to get a flight on SpaceX, but they're offering something unique and different. But what, I guess that's maybe not the best example. I'm still trying to come up with a better example for you, but I've done it in a number of different markets in the life sciences area where people just, they had to figure their way around it. So let me give you an example in cell culture, which is my domain. Okay. When you're trying to grow cells outside the body, and in particular the cells that make therapeutic products for the biopharmaceutical companies, those cells are suspended in liquid, and they're supposed to be single cells living by themselves and doing their thing and producing the therapeutic. What they tend to do is try to find their buddies and get together to be friends and cause clumping. And those clumps create an issue that the biopharmaceutical companies use things like how fast they stir their bioreactor to keep the cells from being able to get together. They do things like adding surfactants and other types of things to try to keep the cells from touching each other. Well, what they didn't have was something that would kind of coat the cells, make them sort of go away from each other naturally without impeding their ability to do their normal job of producing the therapeutic. And so one of the companies I worked for developed such a chemical for use in the bioreactor that would coat the cells, give them a charge so they'd all have the same charge. So then, like magnets that have the same pole, they push against each other. So we keep the cells away from each other. Now, in order for us to try to bring that to the marketplace, we had to go to customers and determine first that they were really annoyed with the fact that their cells wanted to keep getting together and form clubs and be a group and not really produce as much. So what we ended up doing was getting several of them to try it and then to give us the language to use to tell others about what they saw as the benefits of using that when they used it in their bioreactors. And I think in many cases, if you're going with an offering that never really had an alternative to it before, people had their workarounds, but they don't really work, and you're trying to give them something that really works, the best thing to do is to get a few of your target customers to actually interact with you in a way that either gives them that direct experience that they can then be advocates for you or influencers for you, or get them to at least help you define the way they would want, what information they feel they need in order to say, yeah, that would be something that I would try because it would be so much better than what I'm dealing with today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I think we're coming up close to our time, so I'm just going to leave you with a few thoughts. Okay, and and I'm happy to provide these slides afterwards. I don't know the best way to do that, but I know through Hadar I can get them back to you guys, so I'll make sure that happens. But just some takeaways for you. Okay. Developing the value proposition is a great way for you to start developing your strategy and your business model for any new business. And so I encourage you all to go through that exercise like we did tonight for the milkshake, but for your offering. You need to do this with information from your target customers and working closely with your target customers. So that's one of the key things that I hope you'll take away from our discussion tonight. That customer discovery process is something that you never stop doing and that you should keep doing throughout the entire process of developing not only your value proposition, but your strategy, your business model, and your actual marketing of your product. Make sure you're leveraging your strengths while ensuring a fit with customer needs you can fulfill. One of the key things that I've seen people have difficulty with is saying, I know this is better than everything anyone else could offer today, but the customer doesn't care about what it is that you do differently, or you haven't helped them understand why it's important to them. I had at least one situation where we had a fantastic product, and it was just the way we offered the product. And we went to customers, and the thing we thought was most important to them was like fifth or sixth on their list. They had a whole bunch of other reasons why they would be interested in that product. So we ended up changing the message completely about the product based on what it was they were interested in, although it was still based on the strengths we were providing. So that's part of what you need to do. And then I think finally, it's make sure that you end up with some kind of an advantage or a point of difference from, even if it's not being able to do anything today. Okay, so go to before there were lights and light bulbs. Okay, people had to use a fireplace to be able to read, or their fire to be able to read, or the sunlight to be able to read. Okay, so they use those alternatives, but all of a sudden the light bulb was developed after electricity was more commonly available, and now everybody uses light bulbs whenever they're indoors. Okay, so there's the need that was there. It was a latent need, but you needed to develop the fact that this was much more convenient than only being able to read during daylight hours or when you had a fire and nearby the fire. So there's the need to develop the understanding that you're providing that convenience and that alternative, but you need to make sure that that's clear, that that point of difference is clear to the customers you're talking to, and that they believe in it. And once you've developed that, then you're in a position to make sure that you're going to be successful in your business. So I know we're at time. If there's any other questions, I'm still happy to hang on for a minute or two. If others would like to just contact me at another time, I left my contact information in the slides, and I'll make sure that those are made available to you guys. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be with you guys, and hope to meet some of you in person at another point in time.